rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Well, I was going to start off with something really witty and sort of upbeat, but I was just given some news. And while I know a lot of people, here on the program, we have a segment on Wednesday called Pet of the Week. And the Pet of the Week is supposed to, and is designed not only for, engagement for you guys, for anyone who is watching, but it also allows people, those who are watching and are willing to submit their photos of their animals. Because, basically what it is there's a lot of people out there, especially in today's world, that have a bit of difficulty interacting with human beings. And so they interact better with animals than they do human beings. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I certainly understand that. I understand horses better than I do some people. I understand dogs and cats better than I do some people. But the fact of the matter is that our animals, our pets, are a part of our lives. And we do get and have gotten emotional attachments to them. Some of us do a lot with our animals, and one in particular is a longtime whiskey warrior. Her name is Amy Jean Viner, and she is over on Rumble. She has show dogs that she does, and they've been featured on this program. Quite a bit on the Pet of the Week. And, unfortunately she had, I hate to say that, but had 3 generations, and she's hopefully soon going to have another generation, come up as well. But she unfortunately had 3 generations of, pups, of dogs. And, one of them in particular was, you could just tell, was her pride and joy. She was a fantastic animal, talented in all kinds of respects, did agility, did barn hunting where they hunt down rats. And, Amy takes a lot of pride, you can see, and she spends a lot of time with her dogs. And, one of them in particular is, again, one of her babies, but unfortunately, that pup has passed. And now she's going to be waiting at the Rainbow Bridge, I'm certainly sure, for Amy to cross eventually. But she is apparently in a much better place. And so our condolences here on the American Perspective show go out to Amy, again, a longtime whiskey warrior, for the loss of her pup. Livy is what she was called. And Livy is unfortunately just passed within the last 12 hours. So there we go. And again, our hearts go out to Amy. It's not quite the same as when a, human family member dies, but it's very, very close. It's very close. Especially when you have one that is a long time and an incredible addition to the family. So, once again, our hearts go out. If you're over on Rumble, please send your condolences to Amy in the Rumble chat. And, because again, there's a lot of people. I know a few people that relate to animals a lot more than they do humans. And this, you can't quite comprehend what it does to an individual when you have a absolutely spectacular animal that has given all of their love and their attention towards you. And don't tell me that that certain animals can't give love. That's a bunch of bunk. We see it every day. And so anyway, she unfortunately has passed, and yeah. So our hearts and prayers and condolences go out to you, Amy, for that loss. Unfortunately, there's no way for me to segue into anything else with regards to that. But anyway, let's go ahead and get things kicked off. Tonight's Pledge of Allegiance will be done by Pops McGroin and partner for tonight. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hats if you're wearing one like me, and place your hand over your heart and join in with Pops McGroin and partner in the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America.
And, of course, we thank Pops and his partner for that wonderful rendition of the Pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the Pledge played here on the program, please, all you have to do is record yourself reciting the Pledge in your style, whether that's an audio file, video file, whatever kind of file. And let's go ahead and you can attach that to an email and send it off to me. Send it off to fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will get you into the program. Amy, I know I just want to talk to Amy for a second. Amy, if you would like, I'm going to extend this offer to you, but if you would like to put together a memorial for Liv, I will go ahead and put that on for this week's Pet of the Week. So well, there you go. It's up to you if you want to submit. And even if you don't have, if you just want to send me pictures and let me create like a collage or something, I will try and do that for you. So anyway, all right. Top of the show, promotion, of course, is Flag Shirt. I'm wearing one of their shirts, one of their wonderful flag shirts. You can see it is the flag. It is literally the flag shirt. I mean, it's the American flag colored and themed shirt. For them, it is the men's cotton polo version. And you can get yours at theflagshirt.com. That's theflagshirt, all together, all one word, .com, where you can peruse their wonderful styles for men's, women's, and kids, as well as they've got made in the USA. They've got all kinds of accessories and everything else. And right now they have an Armed Forces Day sale running right now with 50% off select patriotic favorites at theflagshirt.com. And if you go over there, get those 50% off, definitely. But if you go over there and you purchase $75 or more of their product, you can get free shipping. So head on over to theflagshirt.com and check out all of their styles. But I know that not everybody can purchase $75 or more. They, for whatever reason, can't this month, or maybe you don't want $75 or more. Maybe there's only one shirt that you appreciate and like. That's okay, because I'm going to help you out. So what you do is you go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online and go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, and you will be presented with a coupon code that you can copy and paste into the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com to get $5 off your order. Go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, get presented with that coupon code, copy and paste it into the promo box at checkout at theflagshirt.com and get $5 off your order. Go to theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized. All right. Well, we had a bunch of news that happened over the weekend. You know, every so often there's these weekends that just, it's like somebody opens up the fire hose and they send everything to you. It is kind of weird. But Trump announced during a White House presser, well, he actually announced over the weekend that we, meaning America, has negotiated a trade deal with China. Now, granted, this is a short trade deal. I believe it's 60 days, 90 days. It's 90 days where both sides, both China and America, have agreed to lower the tariffs that were imposed on April 2nd. Now, that's the key, is that it's not on everything, okay? It's only on the tariffs that were, only on the items that were imposed on April 2nd. And dropping those from, you know, I think they were at like 150% or something like that. Well, now they're dropping it down to 10% for the next 90 days as negotiations continue to hammer out and finalize their final trade deal. So Trump on Monday held a conference, or a little short press conference in the White House about it. So let's go ahead and just take a listen from our president about what happened with this entire scenario.
In addition, yesterday we achieved a total reset with China after productive talks in Geneva. Both sides now agreed to reduce the tariffs imposed after April 2nd to 10% for 90 days as negotiators continue in the largest structural issues. And I want to tell you that a couple of things. First of all, that doesn't include the tariffs that are already on, that are our tariffs, and it doesn't include tariffs on cars, steel, aluminum, things such as that, or tariffs that may be imposed on pharmaceuticals, because we want to bring the pharmaceutical businesses back to the United States, and they're already starting to come back now based on tariffs because they don't want to pay 25, 50, or 100% tariffs, so they're moving them back to the United States. I spoke to Tim Cook this morning, and he's going to, I think, even up his numbers, $500 billion. He's going to be building a lot of plants in the United States for Apple, and we look forward to that. I really do look forward to that. But the talks in Geneva were very friendly. The relationship is very good. We're not looking to hurt China. China was being hurt very badly. They were closing up factories. They were having a lot of unrest. And they were very happy to be able to do something with us. And the relationship is very, very good. I'll speak to President Xi maybe at the end of the week. We have some other things we're doing.
All right. So basically, the tariffs on China, which, you know, honestly, the tariffs on China actually created a bit of a problem. And in fact, the Democrats started talking about, you know, the empty, what do you call it? The empty container ships that were coming from China over here. And there was a lot of complaints, especially on social media, by the sycophant morons that, you know, suck down every Kool-Aid drinking or Kool-Aid scent talking point. But they were all sitting there talking about it. And now we've got some tariffs that are not there. Well, they've been suspended, sort of, for it. But anyway, the whole thing is that the whole thing is that the exempted tariffs. Sorry, I got sort of distracted. But anyway, the exempted tariffs, specifically that the president mentioned, steel, aluminum, automobiles, and pharmaceuticals, they've all been exempted from the trade talks for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is, of course, because of the fact that that governments use tariffs like this in order to instantiate some sort of change, whether it is political change within a foreign country or potentially protection for the source country, meaning America in this case, the source country's industries, whether it's a national security issue or whether it's some type of what do you call it, proprietary, specialized, whatever you want to call it, material or manufacturing or whatever it is. And those are the reasons for tariffs. I mean, that's what you use tariffs for, is to do those kinds of things. And as far as that goes, the ideal outcome, of course, is that we want those particular areas, steel, aluminum, automobiles, pharmaceuticals, to be brought back here to the United States, not only increasing our jobs, but also increasing our own national security. Because let's face it, I mean, if we're totally dependent on outside sources, that is a weakness and a potential opening for other countries, such as China, who want to topple us as being the top country in the world, and bring that kind of stuff back. And so this is part of the reason why Trump is exempting those particular things from any kind of negotiations at this point. Now, the China in particular, while it is far and away the world's #1 steel producer, their steel is problematic, is the best way to put it. Their steel historically has been plagued with quality issues. And so, again, to sort of protect America, from using Chinese steel rather than using good American steel, you put the tariffs on there and you keep the tariffs on there. And so it's these kinds of things that are basically the purpose for these tariffs. And in this particular case, the tariffs themselves are, a kind of, again, like I said, a carrot and a stick approach to gain something certain that needs to be taken care of. Again, whether it's a political nature, whether it's a actual manufacturing nature, so on and so forth. Now, he did mention within the press conference, he talked about, Apple products being brought back here. And that was one of many, that manufacturing companies that have already stated and slated money and have said, hey, we're promising, X amount of money, whatever that is, to bringing our manufacturing back within the United States. Now, this is a good thing, and this is part of the reason, again, why tariffs and what tariffs can do when applied properly. And so, again, the left is talking big time about how these tariffs, these up and down and tariffs and all of this uncertainty and everything else is getting to a point where it's getting frustrating at best for a lot of these, for a lot of investors and so on and so forth, because of the fact that he is, seems to be like he wants to apply tariffs and he's taking tariffs off. You got to understand, Trump is doing this transactionally. Okay. This is, in terms of this particular avenue, this is transactional Trump. Transactional Trump is basically, hey, I'm going to throw something out on the table. Somebody counteracts or counters what I throw out there. And so I either rethink it or I double down or, whatever. And people think that he's, playing a very dangerous game. And in some cases, probably so. But the fact of the matter is that he got China to the table. He got China to the table. They met in Geneva to discuss all of this. And both sides are agreeing to drop, the tariffs for the most part on each other. This, again, is what tariffs are supposed to do. This is exactly what they're supposed to do. And so you sit there and you look at this and you think about, bad news, tariffs, prices are going to go up, and you freak out. You got to remember, this is a long game. This isn't a short game. This isn't the short game. This isn't like he's not looking to do something in terms of the short game. Okay. What he is looking to do is long-term investments, long-term deals, long-term and long on America. Because again, as I've said on this program and I've said to other people, the situation that we're in today is not something that just magically showed up over the last 4 years, or even the last 10 years, or even the last 12 years, or even the last 20 years. We're talking about potentially 40 years worth of buildup to this point. And it's going to take us at least that long, probably longer because of the dumbass Democrats trying to stop everything, to reverse what these morons, and yes, I'm talking about the leftist lunatic morons that are out there, they're called Democrats today, what they have been doing all this time. It's going to take a long time and a very concerted effort by a lot of different people to all get on the same boat in order to be able and start rowing in the right frickin' direction. Okay? Seriously, that's what's going to have to happen. Well, a positive sign, which was an immediate reaction to this, literally, was the stock market. Now, a lot of people spend a lot of time because it's easy to, point to it as a indicator. But let's be real. Anyone with any kind of intelligence knows that the stock market fluctuates. It's always going to fluctuate. It's going to go up. It's going to go down. It's going to go all over the place. It might even go left. It might even go right. It may go in circles, or it might do, not loop-de-loops, but it may go in circles, or it might do ellipses, or be octagonal. Who knows? The point is that when you invest in the stock market, you invest in it for the long term, because over the course of the long term, and I don't understand how day traders actually do this. I really don't. I mean, I'd have to get with Jay Money again to try and figure out what's the point in the day trading kind of thing. But it's the long haul that you're after, because the stock market over the course of decades has done nothing but go up for the most part. Even with the losses, for an example, from the 1929 crash, even those have been completely erased in terms of the long haul. And so anyway, the Dow, responding to this, supposedly wonderful news, it jumps more than 1,100 points today. The S&P itself rises 3% on the China-U.S. temporary tariff. They're calling it, CNBC is calling it a cut. That's where I'm getting this information from as far as the Dow Jones is concerned. CNBC is saying that it's a temporary tariff cut. It's just a pause in tariffs. Let's just call that for now until something, happens, as far as that goes. So the Dow Jones Industrial Average surged 11,060.72 points, or went up about 2.81%. and closed around 42,410.10. The 30 stock index ended the session near its highs of the day, and buying enthusiasm remains strong. The S&P 500 popped 3.26%, ending at 5,844.19, bringing its gain to, since April, intraday low at the height of the tariff pessimism, to more than 20%. The benchmark has cut its year-to-date losses to just 0.6%. And again, keep in mind, here we go, you got to look at this as a long term, okay? It's a long-term process, and this is going to take time. This is going to take time. So anyway, again, this came on the heels of, even Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, which, by the way, I personally think they should just let Bessent talk. Just let him talk. Forget about that other guy. I don't even know who the other guy is. Just let Bessent talk. Okay? Just let Bessent talk, because he's the one that's the calmest. He's the one that explains it the best. He's the one that exudes confidence in what is going on. And that's exactly what we need here. But Bessent called the talks with China very productive. So the U.S. tariffs on trade, Chinese goods were brought down to 30%, and the Chinese tariffs on U.S. imports were slashed to 10%. Bessent told CNBC's Squawk Box on Monday that he expects to meet once again with representatives from Beijing in the, quote, next few weeks to start ironing out a bigger agreement. So just so you know, a couple of tech stocks in that. Tesla jumped nearly 7%. Apple and Nvidia gained 6 and 5% respectively. So, yeah, there you go. Shares of companies that, of course, relied the most on Chinese goods rallied the most. Best Buy went up 6%. Dell Technologies climbed almost 8%. And, of course, Amazon advanced more than 8% as well. So, there you go. Judge Wild points out, which, hey, Judge, all rise for the judge. Anyway, Judge points out Bessent actually thinks while he's talking, not just saying talking points. Exactly. You'll forgive me, Judge, if I wear my hat in the courtroom. Anyway, sorry. It's just a joke. By the way, you got to go and check out his shows. He does, I think, 4 or 5 daily, something like that. Anyway, it's called Intelligent Talk with Judge Wild. He does like 3 or 4 of them, and he also has a shopping show, too, so you can go and check that out. Anyway, all right. Now, as much as I am excited about the fact that, hey, the tariffs seem to be working and everything, seems to be working quite well, okay, as far as that goes. I mean, there was a report that April's tariff intake was something like $16 billion for the month, for the month of April. So yeah, that's a nice chunk of change. Okay. But I am going to step back and I am going to be critical of Trump, not because of Trump, not because necessarily of Trump himself, but as you know, on this program, I have a serious problem with government doing things that are unconstitutional. Okay. And unfortunately, as much as I know it's going to be potentially going to be a benefit for us, I have a bit of a problem when it comes to, executive orders just being written just because of executive orders. All right. Now, here in the Daily Wire, Trump signs order to reduce drug prices, tells the rest of the world to pay up. I'm going to be honest with you. This is a bit misleading of a headline. See, for some reason, and I don't know why, but for some reason, we as Americans have gotten into the habit of thinking that just because the government has a bargaining agreement with businesses and so on and so forth, that for whatever reason they can set prices. There's no legal recourse outside of, price gouging, which of course would have to be completely proven in a court of law before somebody could be accused of that and, of course, have some sort of criminal behavior attached to it. But the fact of the matter is that because the government, thanks to Obama, and actually thanks to Democrats before him, okay, he basically said that, yeah, the government is not going to, the government is making a pact to basically stop subsidizing the drug prices of other countries. Now, again, I'm just going to say this for the record one more time, because believe me, I've been hitting up people like Elizabeth Warren, Pramila Jayapal, Patty Murray, Adam Schiff, any of these other morons that are running around talking about Medicare, Medicaid, all of these things. Somebody, I don't care who it is, somebody please point out to me where in Article 1, Section 8, which defines the things that Congress is supposed to be providing legislation on, can somebody somewhere point to me where it states that health care is a constitutionally mandated responsibility of the federal government? I would just love that. Please tell me where in the Constitution it states that our federal government is responsible for Americans' health care. I haven't had anybody take me up on that yet. And so, obviously, if it doesn't show up in Article 1, Section 8, it falls to the 10th Amendment, and therefore it is not the business of the federal government. So again, as much as I appreciate, Trump is basically using the system that was already created in order to do good things, okay? But I mean, this is one of my complaints about Trump or any politician. If you're going to go in and say, hey, I'm going to be, constitutional and everything else, be constitutional. Go in and actually be constitutional. Stand up and say, hey, this kind of stuff is unconstitutional. Now, unfortunately, the sad part about that is, and this is the truth, is the reality is that there are so many people in this country that depend upon that money. They depend on that money. And I get it. It is literally political suicide to try and attack something that is a social program that the American populace, for the most part, has bound itself to. And so this is where I get a little upset whenever I see things like executive orders going out and saying things like, hey, this executive order, I'm going to reduce drug prices. Well, all he's doing is he's basically talking about reducing the price that the government will pay, which ideally is because of such a large organization and a large group of people in terms of the ones that are on Medicare, Medicaid, etc. Okay, but realistically, I just don't see where this is necessarily going to help things out. And what a lot of people really don't understand in terms of the drug prices, and I promise I'm going to wrap this up as quick as I can here. But what a lot of people don't understand about drug prices, the reason why drugs are so pricey at first is because these companies are not doing the research and development out of the goodness of their hearts. Okay, they're there to make money. just like any other organization, company, whatever, is designed to do when it's a for-profit scenario. And what they do is they have to make the money back for all of the things that they lay out in terms of expenditures in research and development. You know, not every single drug that goes through drug trials, that goes through phase 1 and phase 2 in particular of drug trials, are actually going to make it to the market. And so there is literally billions of dollars that is spent on research and development that never actually makes it to the commercial market. And so this is part of the problem. This is part of the problem, okay? Is that now if Trump cuts this back, well, now people on Medicare and Medicaid are potentially going to have some problems, because now the drug making companies are going to be like, well, shoot, we're just not going to allow that. We're not going to be offering that as a possibility. And so there might be some cutting edge drugs that could possibly be impacted and not be able to be provided to people who are on this program, which is unconstitutional, but yet still exists in our organization and world. Anyway, enough about that. But I do, this is one of my problems. It doesn't matter whether it was Trump, it doesn't matter whether it was Reagan, it doesn't matter whether it was Carter or Bush or, you know, Obama or Biden. The use of the executive order to try and force a private company, a private entity to do something, to me is an abuse of power and should not be, because again, this isn't a constitutional kind of thing. It really isn't, and it shouldn't be done. But he's just working within the framework that is already been produced. And yeah, so anyway, this is just frustrating. Well, what is also frustrating is when you go to the opposite side of the coin. So I'm talking I just covered a subject. I was talking right now about the unconstitutionality of anything dealing with healthcare. Well, now we've got the other side of the coin, where Trump actually did something or is working on something that is going to benefit the United States in particular. It's going to benefit the United States government. And yeah, the left is like all up in arms about it. But before I get to that, let me go ahead and tell you about Rumble Premium. So this sponsorship is from Rumble, one that is incredibly important to the survival of the company. When Rumble first started in 2013, they built the platform for the small creator, like myself. They didn't censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought the platforms would censor political conversations or censor opinions on COVID, but they did. Facebook itself admitted that they felt the pressure from the Biden-Harris administration. Rumble did not. They held the line. They are attacked daily for giving us a voice to talk to you. They are attacked in corporate media. They are attacked by governments like France, from brand advertisers, all who refuse to work with them. Corporate America is fighting to remove speech. Rumble is fighting to keep it. Rumble won't survive with the brand advertiser model. They don't get that much of it. Okay? But watching our show on Rumble is the most that they can ask from you. But if you really believe in this fight, and if you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. Join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble is offering right now $10 off using the promo code STUDIO when you purchase an annual subscription. To do so, head to rumble.com/premium. And for those of you that / is the question mark key on your keyboard, go to rumble.com/premium, use promo code STUDIO and get $10 off when you purchase an annual subscription of Rumble Premium. Like I said, if you have the means and believe in the cause, now is the time to join Rumble Premium. If you don't have the means, that's okay. We're just happy if you watch us here on Rumble. All right. So Trump made another announcement this weekend, which got the left all in a tizzy. Trump announced that we, meaning the United States government, is potentially set to receive a $400 million quote-unquote flying palace from Qatar, and that this flying palace would be used as Air Force One. Okay, so first of all, Air Force One, the current plane, okay, I want to make this straight. It is not called Air Force One until the president steps on board. Okay? Just saying. That being said, the plane that serves as Air Force One and its backup are both relatively old in terms of they're about 40 years, I think, at this point. Old. And during Trump's first term, he negotiated a contract with Boeing to provide the updated and newer versions that would be used for Air Force One. Now, here's the problem. Boeing negotiated with President Trump in his first term, negotiated a fixed bid contract, which Trump has told the press. He's like, I don't like time and materials. I like fixed bid contracts. Boeing, and I mean, let's be honest, any large project like this is always going to run into things like cost overruns or time overruns. I mean, hell, look at the light rail project in California. Look at the light rail project here in Seattle. Look at any large multi-year project, and you're going to see that, yeah, just about every single one of them cost more than what it originally did, and it took longer than what it originally was estimated. Well, part of the problem that we're running across right now is that Boeing is dragging their feet, okay? They're dragging their feet in terms of trying to provide this new aircraft. So, here's my thing. Qatar, okay, I'm going to kind of straddle the fence a little here. Qatar is essentially a haven of funding for terrorist activity within the region. They support Hamas. They support the Iranian regime. They'll send money or hand money over to just about anybody at any given point in time for anything. It doesn't matter. They just want, as long as it supports Qatar. And so the question does have to be asked, and I'm going to be honest about you, it is going to have to be asked, why are they providing us, or why are they even talking about providing us a $400 million jet? Well, here's the thing. Politico asked Qatar directly about it, and Qatar basically says, yeah, you know those reports of the pending jet gift? Yeah, that's not quite accurate. Now, they did actually say that the Pentagon and the Qatari security forces or whoever are in talks about potentially gaining a plane, but everything's up in the air. It's not finalized yet. Okay, it's not finalized yet. And the point of this, of course, is because of the fact that Boeing is dragging their feet. If Boeing would have just provided the planes like they said they would, on time, on budget, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But they didn't. And Boeing, according to Trump himself, Boeing is attempting to come back to the table and renegotiate their contract. So as far as that goes, okay, again, this plane as a supposed gift to the U.S. government, to the United States Air Force, by the way, not to Trump, but to the U.S. Air Force. the idea here would be to use this plane as a stand-in until the new planes can be provided by Boeing. Now, that is the problem, according to the Democrats. And everybody from Chuck Schumer, Shifty Schiff, what's her name? Jasmine Crockett and Elizabeth Warren, they all jumped on to the bandwagon to basically say that, hey, this might violate the Emoluments Clause. Now, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but the Emoluments Clause, if I am pronouncing it correctly, that's what I'm going to go with, is emoluments. That's Emoluments, okay? The Emoluments Clause, which is under Article 1, and again, here I am, I'm a constitutional person, pretty normal, but under Article 1, Section 9, Paragraph 8, well, it's the final paragraph of the section. It says, no title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of Congress, accept any present, emolument, office, or title of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state. Now, I think I'm lying. It's right here. And it's in this great, fantastic, leather-bound U.S. Constitution, which you can pick up by going to constitution.americanperspective.online. Short little brief. Anyway, so here's the problem, though. First of all, the Emoluments Clause is never been adjudicated in court. So it's a little ambiguous, okay? And realistically, the Emoluments Clause itself, and again, I'm going to hop right to our buddies over at Cornell Law School. The Emoluments Clause, in terms of the phrase, offices of profit or trust under the United States, applies, according to them, to all appointed officials, and that is completely undisputed legally. However, there is debate as to whether or not that actually extends to elected officials. History itself doesn't really supply any kind of a clear answer because of the fact that when serving as Secretary of the Treasury, Alexander Hamilton, for those who are a little American illiterate, that was one of our founding fathers and the primary author of the Constitution of the United States. He produced a list of persons holding such offices at the request of the Senate, and the list that he produced did not include any elected positions at the time. During their presidencies, George Washington did not seek or obtain congressional consent for foreign gifts, yet Andrew Jackson actually did. FDR received foreign gifts all the time. In fact, most of his ended up in his presidential library. Just like what would happen to this plane when Trump is out of office. Folks, the Emoluments Clause is kind of questionable at best. Now, there is a Foreign Gifts and Decorations Act of 1966, which actually does enumerate several elected positions in its definition of quote-unquote employees who may not accept gifts of more than any minimum value without congressional approval. Such employees do include the president and vice president, member of Congress, and spouses and dependents of the same. Now, that is under the Foreign Gifts and Decorations Act. But the key here to remember is they're not giving it to Trump. They're giving it to the United States Air Force, reportedly, that will eventually, the ownership will, once Trump is out of office, will be transferred to his library. And he is not going to keep it for himself. So therefore, the emoluments clause doesn't even come into play. All right. So, yeah. Anyway. Now, ironically, there was a constitutional amendment introduced in 1810 to modify that, and the effect, honestly, would have been to strip the effect of that amendment, had it passed, would have been to strip the citizenship of any U.S. citizen who accepted, claimed, received, or retained any title of nobility from a foreign government. However, that amendment was never ratified, even though technically it's still pending. Because it's before the states. But the interpretation of the emoluments clause has never been litigated before the U.S. Supreme Court. And so, therefore, again, it's another one of those murky waters places, honestly. And I got to admit, this is a I'm going to call it a novel angle. Judge Wild writes, Trump is using the unrealistic option of replacing the current VC-25As, which I'm assuming is the nomenclature for the birds that are, or the airplanes that are being used as Air Force One, as a negotiating tool with the United States Air Force and Boeing in particular. And he goes, but Trump doesn't want to blame the United States Air Force. So, yeah, this is kind of interesting. Now, some people ask, hey, what is an emolument? E-M-O-L-U-M-E-N-T. All right. Well, the profit arising from office or employment, this is a law dictionary definition. The profit arising from office or employment, that which is received as a compensation for services or which is annexed to the possession of an office, ancillary, fees or prerequisites, gain, advantage, public or private, anywhere. So now, wait a minute. This is saying it's a profit. There is no profit to be had here. It's a gift. There's no profit. Anyway. Oh, these Democrats, all they'll do is they'll just try and go after him for whatever they can, because they're continually trying to bring him down. Well, speaking of bringing people down, in a very, very bad sense of the term, Newark had another halting of flights as their equipment is failing again. This was flight operations over the weekend. Now, you remember we were talking about this the last time. Now, I seem to recall there was this Infrastructure Act, this infrastructure bill that was passed under Biden that was supposed to take care of all of this, that was supposed to have money in it to go toward, roads, bridges, updating all kinds of systems and everything else. Where did that go? We don't even have the electrical charging stations that we were promised. Only 8 of them were built out of like 500,000 or something. Anyway, this is just ridiculous. This has been a long-standing problem, and so many people, so many Democrats are sitting here trying to go after Duffy in particular with this and saying, hey, you should fix this. Well, you know what? He's only had 100 days or less to get this taken care of. You seem to recall there's this other guy by the name of Pete Buttigieg. Yes, I mispronounced his name. That, took time off to go nurse his baby from his husband. Oh, it was adopted. But anyway, it's It's horrible. I mean, there's some of these places are operating on 1980s technology, and we need to get it updated for sure. But the money was there. It was supposed to be. I mean, the money was there. Was a section in that wonderful infrastructure bill that Biden passed that was supposed to go to stuff like this. And it never went anywhere. So don't sit here, you leftist morons. Don't sit here and start blaming the Trump administration for this crap. Okay? The Biden administration and somebody else from even farther back is, definitely responsible. Well, in the final moments and minutes of our show here, I just want to point out that there was a report that came out from the Labor Department. Not much of a surprise, folks. Not much of a surprise here. But the Labor Department finally admitted that hundreds of thousands of jobs that Biden reported were fake. They were fake. Why does this not surprise me any? Anyway, the Biden administration claimed to have added almost 400,000 jobs from July through September of 2024. But new data that was released this week suggested that none of those jobs actually ever existed. Despite the fact that the mainstream media kept trying to tell you, oh yeah, jobs, we've got jobs, we've got all kinds of jobs. Jobs are going, jobs report. Oh, it's better than what we ever. Now remember, they had jobs reports that came out that kept coming out, and then a couple later they would be quietly corrected in a downward fashion. Okay. For that? Yeah. Anyway, month after month, they published overly optimistic estimates. This is under the Biden administration for everything from job growth to the size of the economy, only to have those numbers routinely and quietly revised down later. So every month, the BLS, that's the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, Bureau of Labor Statistics, produces estimates for the number of non-farm payrolls in the country, as well as revisions for the last 2 months' estimates. Under Biden, these revisions were abnormal in magnitude and direction. They were always being revised down with an unusual frequency. So, anyway, the BLS also publishes much more comprehensive quarterly data called the Business Employment Dynamics that comes from a census of over 12 million businesses, which is over 17 times the sample size of the monthly jobs report survey. Now, this particular data set, which is actually more accurate because it's got a lot more to it, that was just released by the BLS for the third quarter of last year, running from the start of July through the end of September, it actually showed a decline of 1,000 private sector jobs and cleared out. So it basically shows that Biden fudged the numbers. And let's be honest, I mean, the monthly jobs reports and the data, the business employment dynamics, do not measure exactly the same thing. So the BLS also publishes another data set called the Quarterly Census of Employment and Wages, and each of these reports excludes certain categories of jobs for industries like railroad, government, self-employed, agriculture, etc. So all of this benchmark adjusts a 12-month of jobs data to make them as accurate as possible. And the result was a staggering drop of 598,000 non-farm payrolls. They fudged the numbers, folks. This is not really a surprise. So, in other words, the monthly reports had overestimated the number of jobs during those 12 months, those last 12 months of Biden's administration, and were revised down by 600,000, nearly 600,000. Now, that's on top of the individual monthly reports that were already being revised down throughout the year in question. Biden administration has done nothing but lie over and over and over again. And we're still feeling it. Anyway. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure you search up American Perspective Channel. Hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Also, too, on your way out, make sure you hit those thumbs up and like buttons across all of my platforms, whether it's YouTube, X, Facebook, and, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.